Okay. So I'm now 86, and the reason I need these steps is that I'm 4'7", but I just realized that I lost a quarter of an inch. So from now on steps. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. First of all, I have to tell you that I'm very happy to be here and to see all of you working in this fantastic endeavor. In the Talmud, in the Jewish tradition, it says, a lesson taught with humor is a lesson retained. And I could not tell you any jokes. I heard your jokes. I don't like all of them. I have to tell you right away, I'm old-fashioned and a square, but I can hear questions or see situations. And I'll give you an example from this latest book, which I did with Dr. Jerry Singerman from University of Pennsylvania Press, The Myth of Love, which is the stories, the Roman and Greek stories of love with an interpretation by me. For example, here is Bacchus, the god of wine, and there is a mortal woman, Diana, and when you look at the cover, you'll see that she's very sexually aroused. She's very interested in him. And if you look at him, come here, you, with a better. Come here. When you look at him, is he interested in her?
No.
Absolutely not, but I tell you what he's doing right now. Right now, he's praying to one of the gods. I don't know which one. Dear God, make sure I have an erection. Before the book. I want to step one down. I was very fortunate. You know what you can do? Stand here. Okay. It'll give right here. Good-looking guys, I pick them up in the crowd. Stand here. Don't worry, I'm not taking him home. But it gives me a little bit of that insurance that says somebody. As you have heard, the radio did begin in 1980 as a 15-minute tape program where I answered questions that listeners sent me. Later, when it went live, there were attorneys in three-piece suits listening in the control room because they couldn't believe that somebody with that accent of mine, as you have heard, coming from Frankfurt am Main and then living in different other countries, talks about erection and lubrication and vagina and masturbation. You hear me? But they didn't stay very long because I was very fortunate. I was very well trained. I had the academic, scientifically validated data, and what I was doing, I never ask for people's last name. Once the program became live, I was very fortunate. The hour from 10 to 12 on a Sunday night, I provided a lot of people with foreplay because they got in their cars at 10 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, for example, from Long Island, by 12 o'clock they were home, and having listened for 2 hours about all of those questions and answers, they were nicely sexually aroused and could have good sex. So I spoke explicitly. I was very fortunate in terms of the accent. And I also was fortunate that New York City permitted somebody like me with an accent, because it's a city of immigrants, to be on radio. When I started my academic career, they told me, you have to take speech lessons in order to lose your accent. At the time, I made $1 an hour. Believe me, I didn't have any thought or money or time to take speech lessons. Lately, Deborah Jo Rapp, who played the mother in the 70s show, and who played me in different places right now, and in New York, on Becoming Dr. Ruth, guess what? She had to take a speech coach to learn my accent. And some of you saw it, and you saw it? She did very well. I saw it. I tell you a secret, I saw it at least 25 times. Every time I was sitting in the back so that she shouldn't be seeing me, she knew I was there, I had to pinch myself, keep your mouth shut. That's not you on stage, that's Deborah Jo Rapp. I just heard from somebody something brand new. That's why I love to talk to different people. I heard that the show is going to Charleston, which is fantastic because I go to Charleston to the Renaissance weekend every New Year's, and I will have something new to tell them. They probably don't know yet that the Becoming Dr. Ruth is coming to Charleston. So I then did, many, I tell you, because I want to talk specifically about the issue of the media. While I enjoyed that recognition, I was on the cover of People magazine, and what I found satisfying was that I was bringing scientifically validated information about sexual functioning to a mass audience. At the time, Playboy and Cosmo would have articles that spoke candidly about sex, but that was pretty much when it came to answering the public's questions. When my radio show, Sexually Speaking, did was to open the floodgates. You are people right now who are continuing that, and I am very, very grateful to everybody like you who is Planned Parenthood, who is preventing an unintended pregnancies. I could not have done what I did without having worked for 3 years at Planned Parenthood of New York City. I followed. I worked in East Harlem. I trained paraprofessionals to be family planning counselors, and I followed 2,000 women and their contraceptive, and at that time, abortive history, and that became my doctoral dissertation. What makes me sad is that here we are, 2014. If somebody would have told me that we still have these horrible problems, that there are some people who don't understand that abortion must remain legal, that there will always be contraceptive failures, and that if somebody would have told me that today it is still a political football, I would not have believed it. So loud and clear that abortion is a public health issue. There will always be some contraceptive failures, and abortion, in my way of thinking, has to be legal and not in a football. So with that program, Sexually Speaking, what happened is that I was able to talk about women's sexuality. I was able to say that Sigmund Freud was sexually illiterate. All of you know much better, because he said that any woman who needs clitoral stimulation in order to have an orgasm is an immature woman. We still have myths. That's where all of you come in. We still have a lot of educating to do. It's much better. There are less women who don't achieve sexual satisfaction. They have heard people like you and me say that a woman needs to take the responsibility for teaching her partner, that even if he loves her, even if she thinks that he ought to know what she needs, she has the responsibility. of teaching him how to have an orgasm. And there is no question that the Kinsey scale today is not correct anymore. We have many more women who do know that. Now, I don't want a woman to say to her partner, "You stupid, you don't know where the clitoris is." I want her to say, "Let me show you." That's all. Most men, I'm not asking any personal questions, ever. You don't have to worry.
I won't.
Just stay here. Most men, most people in relationship, and all of you know that all of us here want people to have relationships. Most people in a relationship will accept to be taught what is pleasurable and what is needed to have that direction. The other myth that all of us are burying is penis size. I heard what you said about penis. Penis size, they used to believe that a larger penis is more pleasurable for most women, and all of you know that penis size has nothing to do with the sexual satisfaction of a woman, except if it's a minuscule one. That's a different story. So, don't blush. Let me hold your hand. So, when I first started the radio, sexually speaking, people did know about herpes, they did know about syphilis and gonorrhea. Nobody knew about AIDS. And I have to tell you something that in the very beginning I didn't know until a urologist taught me. In the very first book, and somebody brought it to me, Dr. Ruth's Guide to Good Sex, many years ago, in the first book I talked about the urologist called it Kaposi sarcoma, and I asked, "Is that what you want me to quote?" And he said, "Yes." Nobody knew what it was, but look how interesting life is because of all of you. There was a big event at the Metropolitan Opera, exactly next year, 30 years ago. They had La Cage aux Folles on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. I see you nodding your head. And it was an AIDS research. That was the start of AMFAR and all of the other fundraisers. And I participated. I have it here. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. They made me a gown. And I was on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera, where they did the La Cage aux Folles, in a magnificent opera gown. 20 people signed it who had made that. And next year, 2015, it's 30 years, I'm going to Cannes, and I'm going to, with an auctioneer, and we're going to auction it off for research on sexuality education, including AIDS education. I have the picture of it here. I'll leave it with you. So I was fortunate with my accent because when people opened the radio, they could hear that it was me. I was also fortunate because the radios came, the transistor radio became available. So some young people on Sunday nights didn't have to be told, take a shower and go to bed. By 10 o'clock, they were in bed under the covers listening to me. So that was just very fortunate. Also, you heard that I came out of Nazi Germany. I was an orphan at the age of 10. There is something very important for people like me. They have to stand up, be counted, and they have to, what is called in Hebrew, tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. We have an obligation because there were 1.5 million Jewish children killed, and I have an obligation by being a survivor to do something for the world. But I did not know that that would be talking about clitoris and orgasm from morning to night. So, I told you that in the Jewish tradition about the issue of using humor, not jokes, but humor. So here is, somebody here asked me about the onion rings. I'll talk about that in a moment. You asked me. But let me tell you something. I am old-fashioned and a square. I'm still old-fashioned and a square at the age of 86. I did understand right away not to let my late husband or my children, or then later on the grandchildren, go to any of my talks. Because my late husband was an engineer from Karlsruhe, from Germany, and if he had been at a talk of mine, he would sit there where you are sitting, and when I asked for questions, I always said, you don't have to say your name, you can say, a friend of mine at Planned Parenthood has a question. So he would have raised his hand. I would have had to recognize him. I couldn't just ignore him. He would tell all of you, don't listen to her, it's all talk. And I can prove this to you. Fred loved Diane Sawyer. So many years ago, Diane Sawyer came to my apartment in Washington Heights, where I still live, with 60 Minutes. And since I knew that Fred loved her so much, I didn't have the heart to say, you can't be home. So I said, all right. So here we are sitting on the couch. The cameras are rolling. Diane Sawyer, the first question, she said, Mr. Westheimer, how is your sex life? To which Fred said, and I have it on tape, the shoemaker's children don't have shoes. So now you understand why I kept my family out. When I went on Johnny Carson. I didn't tell the producer what I would do. And at one time, I said to Johnny Carson, my first time on, I said, Mr. Carson, you are responsible for the problems Americans have in the bedroom. And Johnny Carson said, me, how come, why? I said, because they stay up to watch you, and then they are too tired to have sex. On David Letterman, I did report on a call, which was a real call. A young man called, because it proves I can show my philosophy. A young man called. He said, Dr. Ruth, I didn't start this saying Dr. Ruth. They couldn't say Westheimer. It was too long a name. Now you have all of the other doctors that started by saying Dr. Ruth. And I said, okay, call me Dr. Ruth. It's my name. It's fine. So he said, Dr. Ruth, he and his girlfriend love each other. He said, they are going to get married. He said, they have terrific good sex. And he said, in order to be on your good side, knowing that I worked for Planned Parenthood, I want you to know that I want you to know that we're using contraceptives, he said, because we don't want to be parents right now. I was very happy. I told you I'm old-fashioned and a square. I want people to be in relationships. And here he told me they're getting married. And here he told me they have good sex. I said, what's your comment? Because sociologically speaking, programs like this create a community of listeners. People call in and give advice to somebody who called the week before. And he said his girlfriend likes to toss onion rings on his erect penis. And I did what you are doing. I giggled. A good sex therapist has to visualize what people do in their bedroom. And then I said, anything two consenting adults do on their kitchen floor, living room couch, in the bedroom is perfectly all right. Later, first David Letterman made believe he's shocked. He walked off. I said, it's his show, he has to come back. Later on, any time that I was on, before the commercials, he had a plate of onion rings on the screen. So if you, and that's what all of you are doing, to stand up, to be counted, all of you are preventing unhappiness and unintended pregnancies. Fortunately, we know that there are less women who don't have orgasms. There are less men now who are premature ejaculators. And all of this has to do with the books, and it has to do with that sex therapy and with that educative endeavor in terms of saying what a wonderful way of being able to help when people are unhappy in their bedroom. So I need one more thing to tell you. I need more research, and I need more money. Do you hear me over there? Not for me. Not for me. I have enough, thank you. But we do, I tell you what, we do need more research. There are many issues still that we don't have the answers. We do know the educative process. We know what you are doing in terms of workshops. We know what you are doing in terms of teaching and writing books and columns. We still need many more issues of research, and I'll give you an example. I need one big institution, a university, scientifically validated data. In the Talmud, again, in the Jewish tradition, it says, if a man brings his wife to sexual satisfaction before he ejaculates, she will bear a son. Very interesting. I'm not going to ask a show of hands here who has sons, but it's very interesting because it could be, it's a hypothesis, it could be that maybe if the woman has her orgasm, there's more wetness in the vagina, and maybe that permits the male spermatozoa to get up faster and have sons. I do not know. It's a hypothesis, but there are many issues like that that we ought to pressure institutions and scientifically validated data about that whole issue of sexuality. The good news is premature ejaculation, which when I started, there were many men who asked that. And they used to say, psychologists used to say, deep-seated psychological problem that these are men who don't like women. Nonsense. It's a learning difficulty. It's easily corrected with a few sessions with a psychosexual therapist by giving homework, and very easily corrected. However, if a man came to my office, happened very often, the couple or a man, and he said that he has difficulties obtaining or maintaining an erection, I didn't give him a second appointment with me. I first said you have to go to see a urologist. You have to first clear up if there is a medical issue. And if then the urologist sent a letter and said, physically everything is all right, then you can do this psychosexual therapy. And I did a book about sex over 50, and I do tell people, I see a few gray-haired people here, to engage in sex in the morning, not at night when they're too tired, in the morning when the testosterone level is highest, and to know not to drink too much. And look how interesting. Who read 50 Shades of Grey? Okay. Not required reading. I'm not saying literature of required reading, but it makes a point that I've been making all these years. Women do get aroused by sexually explicit literature or movies. It's just that women want a story and not just seeing somebody having sex. If some of you remember Lady Chatterley's Lover or Fear of Flying. So this book, not required reading, this book certainly makes the point. I tell people, read it. If there is a chapter or page that you don't like, not required reading, turn the page. Go to those pages that make the point of women do getting sexually aroused with literature. I don't know what the movie is going to look like. That's a different issue. All of you should really know that what you are doing in this education that you are doing, and in this not only preventing unintended pregnancies, but educating for good sexual functioning, is really wonderful work. And look at a whole room here of wonderful workers on a Friday afternoon having to worry about the traffic going back. You really should be commended. I would like to take 3 questions from the floor. I would like somebody to say, a friend of mine has a question. Bill. I'm going to decide who is going to ask the question. Bill. Hi.
Can I go next?
No, first. You are doing a wonderful job. Look at this audience and look how older people and younger people all in that same endeavor. A friend of yours, Bill.
A friend of mine is looking for some financial support.
Okay, sit down. You see how fast he learned your lesson. There is no question that there's no question that you have to raise the money for all of these projects that all of you are involved in. No question. Now I want a real question. Who can top his question? Okay. Say a friend of mine.
Okay. A friend of mine is very impressed with your enthusiasm after working in the field for so long. How do you maintain that sense of humor and devotion and excitement around this topic?
Okay, number one, I love what I'm doing, but there's another reason. That in the Jewish tradition, sex has never been a sin. And I'm going to give you an example from the Jewish tradition, why I can talk about sex from morning till night. Here is a rabbi. When I say a rabbi, I mean an Orthodox rabbi. Here is a rabbi engaging in sexual activity with his wife. I'm talking about an Orthodox rabbi. With his wife, which night of the week? Who knows? Anybody knows? On Friday night. Here it is Friday night like tonight. Oh, all of you tonight who have a partner, don't just pick up somebody here. All of you who have a partner, I want you tonight to do a different position, one you never did before. Tomorrow you call me. I want to learn something new. So here's the rabbi engaging in sexual activity that gives you the answer. With his wife, he feels there is something not quite right in his bedroom. He gets out of bed. He doesn't put on the light because he's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. But he looks around the bedroom. First, he doesn't see anything. He opens the curtains. And then, lo and behold, underneath the rabbi's bed, he finds his favorite student hiding under the bed. He pulls him out. He says, is that derech, is that proper behavior to be under the rabbi's bed when the rabbi is performing the obligation of intercourse with his wife? And the student crawls out and he says, Rabbi, what you are doing is Torah, and Torah I must learn from you. So, for me, being so Jewish, it has never been a sin. It has always been an obligation to engage in that activity. Married people, of course. It doesn't matter. There are some other issues and problems, premarital homosexuality. I want to put something on the table about that. Many years ago, when people did not know all of the things that you know now, I already had the firm philosophy and attitude when a homosexual couple, I worked 5 years at the Institute for Human Identity. I was the only heterosexual therapist in an institute that was particularly dealing with mostly men at the time in the 80s. So when a homosexual couple walked into my office, men or 2 women, when with a sexual problem, either difficulty obtaining or maintaining the erection or whatever it is, or no desire, whatever it was. I treated that couple with the same respect that I treated anybody else. Respect is not debatable. But what we have to put on the table for a group like you, that we still do not know the etiology, the reason for homosexuality, heterosexuality, or any of the other variations. So we have to know that. That's one of the things that makes me continue, because I always wonder, when is there going to be the next finding that I can then talk about it from a reputable institution about issues, so I can say, respect, I don't have, you all know that. We all know that is not debatable. But we have to know more things. And you are right, Bill, that for that, all of you need more money in terms of scientifically validated data and research. Please do me a favor. The new position tonight, call me tomorrow. Good night.